We're good, and it's all yours again, Denise.
All right. So Dave and Dana, Dave Maldonado, Dana Winglau. What advice do you have for new actors and advice for those who have been grinding for years? Is there a difference in what you could offer someone for advice?
Dave, do you want to go?
Sure thing. Well, I mean, I guess I can speak on both because I've been doing it a really long time, and I did have a lot of peaks and valleys over the years. And I think a lot of people get into it thinking that it'll be some sort of a fast process, and I don't think it ever is. It's really a marathon. You have to do the work every day, work on skills, work on your craft. And, once I decided I was going to be an actor, I tried to act in everything I possibly could. I did. Once I started doing theater, I was doing back-to-back plays. Like I never, my wife got so tired of hearing, it's like, nope, I can't, I got to go to rehearsal. I was going to rehearsal every night and going into acting classes. So I think it's really just trust the process and do the little things, and the big picture will work itself out in the long run.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, I think, when we come into this, when we decide, hey, we're going to be actors, I think for me, the thing that's shifted is sustainability. So I think a lot of times when people first get into this business, no matter how old you are, I think a lot of people think like, oh, it's like a flash in the pan type of thing. Like if I book a job, then I'm an actor. No, it's everything that comes with it. The work that the audience never sees, right? All the auditions you get, all the auditions you don't get, the callbacks, the holds, the releases, the books, right? But I think for me, the biggest thing now is get to know yourself, be comfortable with yourself, because that's the thing that's going to come through. Use all your life experience, the heartbreaks, the joys, the highs and the lows, because that all comes, in acting, and get your mental game right, because that's the thing that's going to help you with that longevity and that sustainability.
Awesome. So piggybacking off that one, I think, in a business filled with rejection, Dana, you just mentioned, holds, releases, auditions you get, auditions you don't get. What has been your biggest motivation to keep you going?
Yeah, I mean, I like to joke that I'm a professional get rejected person. So I'm very good at it. No, I think there is something true a little bit that there's nothing else I also joke that I also have no real world skills. So there's nothing else that I could be doing right now. I think that's part of the motivation a little bit. I think there's a little bit of, for me, I took a leap of faith. I bet on myself, to make this my thing, to make this my full-time thing. I mean, so I think sometimes that's where the motivation comes from. Even through all your day survival, thrival jobs, right? You're taking a bet on yourself on it. And I think that's a little bit of the motivation for me.
Yeah, I also don't know how to do anything else.
No, I said I have no real world skills, Dave. You.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just kidding.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know anything else. That I could bartend, but that's about it as far as making any money. But I in the beginning I would get and the thing about the rejection in this industry, people talk about the rejection. It's not like someone is telling you no. You just don't hear anything, and that has its own kind of emotional attachment that you have to kind of get used to. And I learned a long time ago that I send it and I forget it. And that's the way I approach every audition. I try to I work as hard as I can to really give the script and the filmmakers the respect that they deserve in this, piece of art that they created. And I go with my instincts and I don't overthink it. I don't even watch my auditions anymore. I haven't for a long time. I have a few people that tape me. We have a really great relationship, and a lot of times they don't watch them either. They see that I'm in frame and they're listening, and we tape it and they're like, "Are you good?" "Yep, I'm good." It feels, and that has worked for me. So I used to watch the tapes over and over again, and it would just get, I would overthink it way too much. So that's my thing. Trust your instincts, tape it, send it, forget about it.
Yeah, I will say when sometimes you're stuck in that minutia where you're like, oh, I'm gonna do one more take, and one more take becomes 20. I think that's insane. So I think, do your prep work, be present, set yourself up for success. But once you get after, you're in double digits for takes, like when I coach people, I'm like, stop, right? Because at some point it's not good for you. And you just start everything that you're feeling or knowing, it just gets a little too much. And then that's where the burnout starts, a little bit, where you're like, oh, I spent 5 hours on this audition tape. And I'm like, well, first off, let's not spend 5 hours on it, So it comes back to that also, that helping yourself be sustainable, have that longevity, and trusting your instincts.
Agree.
Speaking of auditions, how do you prepare for an audition? And do you have any rituals that you do every time?
Well, yes, I do pretty much the same thing every time. And a lot of people have different philosophies about this as far as how they learn lines, how they analyze a script. I record the lines, both sides, and then I record without my lines, and I go for a walk. I learn the lines with my dog, walking around the block, walking to the park, back and forth. And I often look like a lunatic when I'm, most of the roles that I read for are just people in a bad mood. So I just look really unpleasant when I'm walking around the neighborhood. But I run the lines. I get a foundation of what the words are. I go back to the script. I analyze what's going on. I go back to the lines, and then I go back and forth and try to find little Easter eggs and nuggets here and there that I'm like, oh, that's what's going on here. Because it's usually all there. It's all on the page. You don't have to kind of overthink that either. I don't think you need to know what the guy had for breakfast. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, I drill it, and yeah, that's it.
I guess I have a process. I think if I were to break it down, I think what I do to prepare for a stage audition differs from stuff on screen, but I'm very lucky. I've always been able to pick up lines pretty quick, so I can see it. Also, I can also kind of see it in my head. It takes me a few minutes, so I'm pretty lucky in that way. But the one thing that I make sure I do is I read the entire thing. I try not to be one of those actors. It's like, where's my line? Where's my line? Where's my line? It might be different if you're just on a co-star and you're like, oh, your coffee, right? There's not much I can do with your coffee. But reading everything from the slug line to the action lines, doing all that. Sometimes I read them out loud. So the whole thing out loud. So I get more clues of what's happening. And I like to change the pronouns, and instead of if I'm playing Alice and it says she does this, I might say I do this. So then I'm seeing those actions as it's going. And then I grab my lines, I kind of do it. Since we do so much self-taping, right? I've done, good portion of my career was in the room, and the good portion is here. I do little setups, I have 2 little stands. So if I do need the sides, I'm a more of a tactile person. I usually print out all of my sides still. Sometimes I'll use the laptop. iPad thing, but I have like a little like document holder stand. So I'll fold like the sides in different ways to make sure I can get it and see it all in front of me. If I need to go down and grab it, I highlight them. Anything, my philosophy is acting is hard, so make it easier for yourself. So anything that you need to do in terms of like the technical stuff or grabbing lines or whatever you need to do, use that system, set it up, find something that works for you, and then rinse and repeat. So that's generally how I would work that. If it was like a stage audition, I definitely try to find the whole play. I read it and all that. I mean, if it's a feature film and there is a script available, I try to do that too. But I also, if it's sides and you don't get, like say you get like 10 pages of sides, you know, which is a lot, and it's a feature film and you don't get a script, I look at the page numbers and see where it is. So if I know, hey, it's a feature probably going to be between 90 and 120 pages, if this is at the beginning, if this is page 5 and then this is page 60, then I'm like putting some clues together maybe for that. If I get the other sides for the other characters, I'm going to try to read all their sides too to get more clues about me as well, and then try to put that all together.
Yeah, I what you were saying about making it easy, I'll do whatever I have to. I put cheat sheets up,
Post-its, I got like paper tape, I got, you know, everything like, but it's all here. And then I'm just creating the world outside of the frame.
If you got a little segment that's you keep tripping up on, put it up there so I can just read it. Anytime I read anything in an audition, I really read it. Like, why memorize it? Like, okay, detective then they came in and saying, yeah, just read it off the thing. You know, it's more realistic that way. So yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I never, like, I'm not going to try to memorize this paragraph. I'm going to read it to you.
Excellent. How do you continue to stay sharp with your skills? Do you prescribe to any particular style of acting?
I'm a Meisner trained actor. So I went to theater school and film school, but I did the whole 2-year Meisner training. So I guess I would say I subscribe to Meisner in many ways, but I think I've been really lucky that I've been a teaching artist, an acting teacher and acting coach for a number of years. So that actually has helped me stay sharp. And I've done this for a variety of ages, like from, you know, little guys all the way up to adults and stuff. And so that has helped me feel like I'm seeing when moments are dishonest. I'm looking at that. I'm relearning sometimes as I'm also teaching. But I try to take classes when I can. I try to read especially plays, you know, and just kind of see it's kind of nice just to go and explore someone's emotional stuff for a while, a story. But other than that, I feel like that's it. Should I be doing more? I don't know.
Well, you're doing more than I do. or I used to do a lot. You know, I used to try to be in class all the time. I was always reading an acting book. And I studied, you know, Meisner and Stanislavski and all these. Now, if you wanted to have a conversation about any of those subjects, I really wouldn't know where to begin. I think Meisner is probably the book his books, what I identified with most. True and False, David Mamet's a great book. But yeah, I think I cherry picked over the years all these different classes and teachings and kind of came up with my own kind of style. And yeah, I mean, thankfully in the last few years, prior to this kind of thing we're going through now, it was a lot of on the job training, you know, so I got to really experience a lot of sets, film and television. So When I'm not doing that, I kind of just try to learn a new skill. Like I'm trying to learn sign language right now. It's harder than I thought, but that's a really good thing. You know, be reading, be in class, or learn a skill, learn to juggle, or something like that. Learn to use a firearm.
Yeah, I think I totally agree about like learning new skills, and just anytime that you can put yourself outside of your comfort zone or be a student. I don't necessarily think it's always have to be like acting. I think that is really helpful though, as an artist and as an actor. And for me, sometimes like people I've worked with, sometimes they tell me like, oh, I've been in class for 6 years. And they're like, but I'm not getting any auditions. I'm not doing anything. And sometimes I'm like, I think it's great if you're loyal in your class and you're getting something out of it. But sometimes I do think that you do need to spread your wings and fly a little bit. And also like, there's a certain amount of safety if you just stay in class and you're not also putting yourself out there. So I also say to people like, just, go find an audition. You can do it. You can go to like, the atxtheater.org website, go find one and put yourself out there. Sometimes I think like, we just also need that little push to scare us. It's already scary being an actor, but so we're not always in that safety net.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure like you have done. Independent films. I mean, you can just go to the film commissions and audition for all these indie films, student films, plays. Just be acting somewhere, even if it's learning a monologue and performing it, and shake it up with teachers. Try some different teachers out. Everybody has a different style. Everybody has a different philosophy. So if you're with the same teacher for 4 or 5 years, maybe you go to a different one and kind of see if that opens up something, in your philosophy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's see. What are 2 of your favorite projects that you've worked on?
Dave, go ahead. I feel like you have one like right there.
Well, I've done a lot of small roles in big movies and TV, and big roles in small movies and TV. But Deepwater Horizon was probably the first opportunity that I got to have a substantial role in a pretty big movie. And I was working with several, A-list actors, and it was Peter Berg was the director. So it was super intense. If you've ever auditioned for or worked on the set for Friday Night Lights, Peter Berg directed the movie. It's very, very all over the place. It's handheld, and it's a lot of improv. So it was a kind of a sink or swim situation, and it was very challenging. And he was like a coach. He's like, I need you to do this for me, and you either did it or they found somebody else. So it was invigorating. That's the first time I ever got my name on the chair, which was pretty cool. It's only happened once or twice since, but Your Honor is the other one. The series with Bryan Cranston. That's another opportunity that I got for a pretty substantial role in the series, recurring, and really, really great writing. I mean, I'd never seen writing like that when I read for that show. It left so much in the hands of the actor to interpret. A lot of times, I think writers a lot of times will just say things, and I talk to them. I'm like, you don't need to say that. Like, we can interpret that in a number of ways. We don't need to insult the audience. I think they're smarter than that. So that was an opportunity. When I read the script, I was blown away. So that was a huge opportunity, and those were the 2 for me.
I think the 2 that stick out for me are, I think they're both stage projects. So the project I got my equity card through a TYA, Contract Theater for Young Audiences. This is when I was living in Southern California. And it was with the La Jolla Playhouse. And if you know the La Jolla Playhouse, you know, they take a lot of stuff to Broadway, and it's just it's just a great theater. But I got to work with B.D. Wong. He co-wrote the script. He also directed the show. And I toured that show all around the San Diego area for 4 months. And so that means sometimes we're doing 3 shows a day. And on a TYA contract, you're also like ASMs. So we're loading in and loading out. And I'm this like, the name of the show is Alice Chan, and I played Alice Chan. And she's like an awkward like 5th grader. And, you know, coincidentally, I think it was the first time I got to actually play a Chinese American girl. And I've always played, I played other Asians, right? But that was the first time I got to actually play my own ethnicity. So that was kind of cool. And also just bringing theater to some underserved communities, or to kids who wouldn't be able to see theater right there in their schools. That was really special for me, being a theater kid, and also having sometimes parents and like little girls come up after to take pictures with me because they could see me in them. It still makes me teary-eyed because I never got that. So that's a really special project for me. And then the other one, I did a show called Peerless, and for any theater people out there, it's a reimagining of the Scottish play. And it's about 2 Asian twin sisters who take the place instead of Lady M and the M guy. I guess I'm not in a theater, I could say the name, but I feel weird if I say it. But there's M and L, and they're trying to get ahead in the world, and they're using each other, and they speak in like this like special language in a way. So it's really fast. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to be off book for. And we would still have to run like 2 or 3 scenes before every show, because just for the cadence and the rhythm and the lines, it was just such a hard show because they were twins and they just knew each other inside and out. And it was also loosely based on these real life twins called the Silent Twins, if you guys know about them. There's not a great movie out about it, but there's like a little biography or a documentary out, but they would not speak to anyone else, but they only spoke to each other. But it was one of those things where they couldn't live with each other, but they also couldn't like survive with each other. Spoiler alert, one of them dies. So that was just a really good, show. It's such a great show. So I recommend people to go read it. It's great.
Awesome. Who is your dream co-star?
When I read this question, I was like, I have no idea. Do you, Dave?
I had no idea at first either. But you know, there's several that I would honestly, I would love to work with, but some would really be intimidating. Like I don't know if I was getting ready to work with, like, say, Daniel Day-Lewis or Tom Cruise or somebody like that has a reputation for just being brilliant and just a little, you know. So I admire comedic actors so much. I think comedy, and I haven't done comedy in so long. I think comedy is more difficult. You kind of have to tell the truth, but it also kind of has to be funny, you know. And it's just people that do it well, just it looks effortless. And one of those people is Bill Murray, and I would just love to hang out with him and do a few scenes. That would be something.
Yeah, I think I'll flip this question a little bit on its head. I think my dream co-star would be someone who was open and honest with their work and generous as an actor, and able to just, like, we were just there, you know, we were able to just trust each other. And whatever, you know, A-list actor to someone you don't know, but like, I think those are the best types of actors. And I strive to be that, you know, a good partner, right? For the other actor, because I can't be great unless you're great. And it's the same otherwise.
Absolutely.
I have a follow-up to that since it seemed like it might have been a little hard to answer. So this is not a pre-planned question. So if you could have had any role on TV that you've seen or in a film, which role would that have been?
Wow.
Well, I love, one of my favorite movies is, okay, wait, hold on. I feel like I'm going to talk so much. Okay. One of my favorite movies is Little Miss Sunshine. So something like, you know, Toni Collette's character, and that I love Toni Collette in general, but I just love that movie on so many levels. I'm going to confess something right now, and you can disagree with me, but you're wrong. So I unapologetically love the Fast and Furious series, except for number 3. I love them. And I would love to be in like something like Fast and Furious, because it's all about family, no, but like, I just would love to be in a movie like that, where like, they do not apologize for what it is. I'm going to drive a car underneath a semi and have a high-speed chase and like go do all the things. I have a thing for like some action movies that are, people can say are bad, but they're not. Like Speed is one of my all-time favorite movies. And I think that would be amazing if I could do that, something like that. And I also would love, like you were speaking about like comedy, Dave, but like, I love most of the stuff when like, that Judd Apatow and his crew have come out with, and then, you know, adjacently like Bridesmaids and stuff. That would be totally my jam.
Yep.
Serious, and then, you know, Bridesmaids.
I can't contradict you with the Fast and the Furious, because I have not seen any of them.
Get on it. Listen.
But I don't hate on hey, they're doing their thing. People love them, you know, they keep turning them out, and they pack the theaters with those things. So yeah, speaking of comedy again, I love, and my wife can't understand this either, all the Christopher Guest movies, Spinal Tap and Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show. I can watch those every day. I could just, and I think they're just so brilliant. And you know, if I could fit my way into one of those ensembles, that would be a dream come true.
That would be a good ensemble.
Yeah. Nice. Well, thanks for humoring me on that question. So back to the business side, you guys work all over. So how many agents do y'all have, and where are you represented?
I have 3 agents. So I'm still with my very first agent in San Francisco. I have this wonderful agent here. His name is Jason Wasner with Acclaim. No. I'm with Acclaim here. And then I'm also represented in Hawaii. I haven't gotten any like auditions or anything, but and then I have a manager in LA.
I've got 2. I've got Pastor Marie Bosby here in Houston, and Landrum in Louisiana, and they kind of split, both in the Southeast, obviously, but you know, I get a PB handles everything here in Texas, and kind of share Atlanta, and PB is in New Mexico, and you know, Landrum handles everything east of Texas. So I got 2, and that's for me, that's enough, because I don't have that you know, that shark in me that's like, no, it's this way, and you know, I don't like being in the middle. And sometimes it's you going from one project to the other, and there's conflicts, and one agent got you one, the other agent got you the other. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, it's a good problem to have, but it's uncomfortable. And I just say, you guys handle it. Just, you know, get it done, get with the casting directors, and let's, you know, go team, you know, so.
Awesome. Thank you. Those are the only pre-planned questions I have. So we're going to open it up to the audience. Please raise your hand if you have a question for either or both Dana and Dave, or Dave. So we'll give them a minute. Actually, I wrote another one down while we're waiting for hands. Oh, we have a hand. So I'll let Andy go.
Hi. I'm Andy, Dana, Dave, thank you for being here. Yeah. Do you have any specific practices that you really appreciate in directors? So when you find a director who you really like to work with, what is it that they do that helps you be your best actor creative self?
I think when a director sees what I bring, you know, like we can talk about it first and stuff, right? Obviously, but they're like, okay, let me just see what you're thinking, right? And then maybe it's like on the mark. We're like, oh, I didn't think about that. I like that, and then we massage it along the way, instead of. Like sometimes if I'm like, okay, you just do this, then I'm like, you know, because I think that's what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to see it and bring certain things to life. So I really appreciate that. And their trust in me.
Yeah. I you know, I've worked with different directors that are, you know, some are just, they're kind of jerks, and some are really kind people, you know. We're all people, so it's as an actor, you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position, you know. I appreciate those directors that appreciate that, putting myself in that position. Approach directing with kindness and enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is super contagious, and like a lot of actors, I'm very you know, self-conscious, you know, about a lot of things. So all you got to do is say those, you know, a few little words of encouragement, and give me a pat on the back, man, and we're gonna do great things.
Yeah. I also enjoy. I like being able, if it works for the project. I like improving a lot, so I'm never afraid to do that.
Thank you. Tootie, you have your hand up?
Yes. My question is, what has been your biggest challenges as actors, and how have you overcame them or are overcoming them?
I think you know, like they say the rejection, it's, you know, that you don't know what anybody wants, usually. So it's been a long process to come to terms with the fact that I have something special, and I'm going to give them this gift that I think I've been blessed with, and whether or not they accept it or not is not up to me. And that's taken a long time to come to terms with. There was many years where, you know, the day after an audition, I'm like, why haven't they called? You know, you can't sit by the phone. You really just have to go with your gut, like I said, your instincts, and trust that. You know, it's you know whether or not you have something, a gift to give, and you really just have to trust that.
Yeah. I think there was a little bit, especially when I first started out, I think lots of things have shifted. I think there's still a lot of work to be done, but I definitely did feel, being a woman of color was hard in certain aspects, just the breakdowns I would get, you know, a lot of like women with accents and sex workers and all of these things. And none of that shit was well written anyway, right? And didn't really serve the story. So I think for me, one of those what I needed to, sorry if I wasn't supposed to cuss. Sorry. It was disheartening for a while, especially when I first started out, because I felt like I was supposed to look a certain way. I always got that I was like too Asian, but also ethnically ambiguous. I got that a lot, and that was hard. I also got things like, well, you don't look Chinese. And I was like, great. Well, you don't, like, that's not helpful, right? Like, that's not helpful. So what I will say was, it was a lot of like what I talked about earlier a little bit, the mental game, right? Getting over my own self, getting out of my own way, knowing that I'm enough type thing. That's been my biggest thing for me to overcome, and to constantly keep working at that as well. Because, this is a lot, just like Dave said, you are vulnerable in many aspects. It doesn't matter what kind of project it is, from, commercial, industrial work, all the way up to, being number one on the call sheet. It doesn't matter. It's still vulnerable. You're still putting yourself out there. And we want to be liked, we want to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah. And to go along with that, things have changed so much in the past few years. And, being my type, it's, half the time I'm reading for cops and half the time they're racist. It's like, if it serves the story, that's great, but it does get a little bit tiring. If the writing's good, it's like, would I really say this? Would I really use this kind of force in this particular situation? So I'm so thankful that things are going in a different direction as far as inclusivity and, colorblind casting and things like that. It's definitely long overdue. The other thing that I struggle with every time I show up and set, technically, I still don't know what I'm doing. The acting part of it, I kind of get it. But every time you show up, they put the cameras in different positions, and you have to stand somewhere else, and you have to move somewhere different. Everybody has a different artistic vision. So you just have to adapt every time. And I thought about 10 years ago, I was like, well, I should be able to get it now, but I'm still struggling with that to this day. So don't feel bad if you're struggling with it and you're new.
Yeah. And just a little bit more about that. I think it's also own what you want too. Like I said no. I remember my very last sex worker audition where I had to speak with an accent. It was with an agent I had in LA at the time. And I remember as I'm reading the sides, like taping it, I was like, I don't want to be doing this. This is not, I don't want this. I wouldn't care if I got this part. I don't care that it's in a feature or whatever it was. And I decided from that day forward that I wouldn't audition for any of more of those roles, whether it's for like a big, huge show or whatever, because that's just not something that I want to do. And so I would say that to all of you, right? If there's something like, oh my God, this could pay for so many things and this and this and this would be great credit, but do you want it? If you don't, feel empowered that you can say, no, thank you. I will wait to the next opportunity. And because I think as actors, so many times we feel that we have no power in our career, but we do. You just have to kind of see it in a different way and trust. It's about that, taking that leap of faith too.
Yeah, that's admirable, man. That's amazing that you had the courage to do that. That's and it's difficult, man. You know, it's like in commercials, some people just, I don't do commercials. You know, some people say that, and I'm like, you know, you can, and that's whatever your that's your stance as an actor, you know. But it's really, it's tough, you know. You gotta put food on the table, and but yeah, that's everybody has to make that decision for themselves, you know, or where they draw the line.
Yeah, and like even with products for commercials, I do a lot of commercial work. I like commercial work. I think I'm good at it too. But if it's like a product that I don't really want to be on, I'm gonna say no, thank you for that. You know, so there are things that we can do to make sure that you feel good about what you're putting out there too.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up too, based on what y'all discussed, you know, like being uncomfortable in the role, or just, you know, I'm not doing that anymore. And Dave, like you said, you know, sometimes you get a cop, most of the time it's a racist cop. If it serves the story, okay. So if it is something that you really want to do, and I don't know what your opinion was on Candy Montgomery when you were in Love and Death this year, or when y'all taped it a couple years ago or last year, but how do you get yourself in that world, knowing that personally, Dave, you may feel differently about that situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's just you just research the character. I mean, it's I play a lot of just awful people, you know. I try to be a good guy from day to day. So you never know why people do the things they do, or sometimes we do. You know, that the character that I played on Your Honor was just, he was a pretty despicable human, you know, and he did some awful things. And I remember talking to the first AD. He's like, so at the first table read, and he was like, you know, so this guy's a pretty bad guy, huh? And I'm like, well, I don't know that. You know, it's I don't know why he's the way he is. You know, he's got some history. He's got some things that happened to him. He's got some. He's got a life that he lived. So I think it's a lot more interesting to figure out why they do those things, and not just make it a caricature. The guy in Love and Death was, you know, was a real guy. So, and they were investigating a real crime that happened. So it's a little bit easier when you have the real circumstances of what actually happened and what the character thinks happened and how they're trying to get answers, you know, from the suspect or witness. So it's usually all there in the story.
Yeah, and I think that's also part of, you know, one of the foundations, like, you know, acting 101 is we're not here to also judge the character. Like if you are playing the villain, you know, I'm using that term broadly, right? You can't think you're a villain, right? The villain doesn't think they're a terrible person for the most part. Their moral compass is just different. So you can either dive into that and give into it and understand from that vantage point as an actor doing your work, where, you know, how to get to that point, or you as the actor, like, you know what, I'm not comfortable dialing my moral compass this way, and I can't do it. This role is just not for me. And either way, I think that's okay. You know, just know where you stand on that.
Thank you both. Do we have any more hands up? I can't see any. Renee, Tootie. Because I got a couple more questions that I wrote down while they were talking.
Go ask those questions, please.
Okay. Do you remember your first yes? Your first, you booked it.
Yes, I was in 6th grade. My very first role was Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz at Carroll Community Theater in Carroll, Iowa. That's where I'm originally from. And that was my very first audition. And yeah, I got to be Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz. So I like Wizard of Oz holds a special place in my heart.
Yes, I did not get to be Dorothy in Wizard of Oz, but that's, you know.
I'm sorry, Denise. I'm sorry.
Dave, do you have an answer for that one?
So you got a yes on the first one, and I remember first moving to Houston, 20 years ago, and I got cast in an industrial.
Yeah.
And I was so excited.
Yeah. I
was so excited. And I got like 2 industrials in the same week. And I'm like, this shit's easy, man. Why did they say it's hard? And the industrials that I really enjoy doing are the vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
I love those. They're much easier. I hate spokes. Although they asked me to do it many, many times over the course of the last 20 years, and I hated it every time I did it. Teleprompters and audio prompters.
I love teleprompters though, by the way, so we're different. Love it.
It's just, for me, it was nerve-wracking. And when my sight started to go, I'm like, you got to put that thing closer. I can't. So I thought, this is what I have to do. And that's one of the decisions I made. I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing it anymore. It's like, it's just, it wasn't, my mental health wasn't worth it. But yeah, the vignettes, man, those are, you get to do some dramatic work in your industrials, man.
Like, really?
I started finding as I would watch some at work, I'm like, oh, they needed to recast that thing. That was, yeah.
I've done some in back, looking back. Whew.
I remember,
because, they're
I remember one of my first industrials. This was when I lived in San Francisco. And you know what I remember from it? Their craft services was bomb. Their catering was bomb. I just remember it was like a full-on buffet. Like you get like a hot buffet at like a hotel, and they made me omelets on site. I was like, oh, and then I thought that's what happened every set. No.
And then you had breakfast tacos and
it was like a silver platter thing, and then I became like an omelet chef. I don't know.
Pilates over there.
But
awesome. Daniel, you have a question?
Turn on my mic and turn on my video. Hi, guys. So I'd like to hear from you, what is the worst advice you've ever received from someone that you thought at the time should know better?
Oh man, I don't think I didn't think anybody knew. I thought they all knew better at the time. Years later, I realized that it wasn't very good advice. That's why I say bounce around to different teachers. Because years later, you're gonna think, yeah, that doesn't really jive with how I approach this whole thing. But
no, that's my question is, what was that?
Oh,
what
yeah.
was that bad advice?
Mine was that it doesn't matter how small the character is, you have to have an entire backstory created for that character. And I did a lot of work before auditions. I lost count of how many times I went to Austin to read for Friday Night Lights, and just, I had all this stuff. And at the time, I was reading for all these small, walk-on roles, the cop who's showing up to the practice to arrest one of the players, and it's like, and the director looked at me. I was like, well, what do you think's going on here? What do you think, And he's like, he's just doing his job.
Just doing a job. Yeah.
So it's sometimes there is a lot going on. Sometimes there isn't. And you have to be very careful about discerning that, because you put yourself through way too much work and way too much, you're in your head way too much. If it's just showing up to do a job, don't overthink it.
I think it's something I touched upon earlier, you know, like I had my agent was like, I had to do an audition. I had to prove that I could speak Cantonese. And then they were like, from the casting director, they passed along the feedback. Well, they said you look Filipino. And that's all she gave me. I was like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to do with that feedback. Like, I don't know if I can't. So that's not helpful. I've gotten that, you know, a couple times. And then in bits and pieces, you know, I've had people who are like, to tell me to lose weight, but that's part of the I can't, the stuff.
You can swear, it's all right.
Sorry, Michael. I was like, Michael doesn't like me, I said shit.
Oh no, I wasn't censoring you. It's just I hit the wrong button. I'm doing email.
Okay.
I'm booking 3 jobs right now. No. Oh,
Yeah.
honey, have you heard me talk at a session before? I let it fly.
No, I was like, ooh. Yeah, so just like the, you know, especially, you know, this is a while ago. Like I said, things have changed, you know, but it's just like when people are like, oh, you should lose weight.
Yeah, I rarely have people tell me to lose weight. But I keep trying, and they keep, you know, the character description says, you know, pear-shaped guy. I'm like, well, how am I ever gonna get on my fitness journey if, you know, and like, I really want to lose weight. No, don't lose any weight. You're fine. I'm like, well, I would like to, you know, walk my daughter down the aisle in however many years, you know, I want to be around to experience this acting career. So
I think that's a whole other topic of conversation that we could have on lose weight, don't lose weight.
Yeah. That's another thing. You gotta, you know, you have to take your, in all aspects, you have to just take your, what's best for you, what's best for your health, you know. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, things have changed a little bit in that regard as well.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Because then I'll ask the last question I came up with.
I'll ask Dana one.
You go.
You mentioned that you have a manager, and Texas actors ask all the time, well, how do I get to that level? Or when do I know I'm right for a manager? And I usually tell people, hey, you know, they usually find you once you get to a certain amount of credits and stuff like that. But did you actually pursue someone? Did you meet them at a showcase? Did you meet them through a contact? Like, just want to know your journey.
Yeah. So my first manager I got, I think during like COVID. What I did was on Actors Access, you can put yourself up on, I forget the exact terminology. It's like, yeah, it's like saying,
send it out to all the reps and stuff like that.
Yeah, like you're available, like you're looking for representation. Now it costs an extra fee, so you can do it for a month, and then I think it asks you again, like if you would like to like re-up it for that month. So I got a couple of manager meetings that way. And between those two managers, I decided to go with one. She was also based in LA, and I got a few auditions from her and stuff, but I also, we didn't really, like, there was no conversations we were having, if that makes sense, right? And I know it was COVID and lots of things were kind of nuts, but I, you know, and I would do I check in with her and I just let her know stuff that was going on or what I was doing. And, but then I was talking to her and I just wasn't really like, I just wasn't, as the kids say, vibing with her, you know, a little bit. So when I did this movie, I think it got distribution. It went to Mammoth Film Festival. It's called On Fire. It was shot here locally. The lead girl that we became friends, we had 2 days on set together. And they literally shot half the movie in 2 days, like in this like call center here. So, So she's from LA, and we decided to go like get drinks afterwards and like chat. And we were just chatting about, you know, careers and stuff and everything. And she was talking about her manager, and she literally referred me because I was like, I'm not really happy with mine. Also, I'm not sure if we just have different ideologies of stuff. So I sent her my things. I said that I was referred to her, and got a meeting via Zoom with Deborah Lynn was her name, and her assistant at the time, and her assistant, and they said that they would love to take me on the roster, and then I've been with them since then. So a little over a year, I think a year and a half or so now. And then I just I called or emailed my other manager and just said, you know, because I had been with her for a year, and I just said, hey, just feel like I want to go a different direction. Thank you so much for everything. And she was okay with that. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. Well, it is 8 o'clock, and I want to say thank you to Dana and Dave. I can tell just just the way y'all were talking, how much y'all love acting. You wouldn't do it if you didn't love it, right? I mean, come on. This, as we mentioned, this is like a land of rejection. But y'all are inspirational because we know that, and I hate the word inspirational, but it lets us know that people local can really make something of this in this business. And that we shouldn't give up. Yeah. And it's something we really want.
Yeah. And the one thing I wanted to mention too, it's a business too. So please start thinking of yourselves as a business. That was something that really helped me work more. So I'm not just thinking about myself as an artist. Yeah, I got all of that, but it's a business, and I gotta treat it like a business and do all that stuff to make sure my business is streamlined. So that would be my.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I've fallen short. I've my headshots are really old. I'm set to get new ones in August. So yeah, you start to get a little bit complacent. Like, no, you gotta, you know, stay on the ball with all that stuff. And a lot of the business is just the practicalities of auditioning too. You know, it's like, it's not super complicated if you don't have to, you don't have to overthink it. You know, it's like, have good lights, have good sound, that kind of thing. And yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for helping out tonight, answering questions, and just having a great discussion. Like, I'm seeing the chats come in. Really appreciate your time volunteering for us. And if there aren't any other questions, then I'm going to say good night.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.